And welcome back, everybody, to the Old Gap Box podcast. Excited about our next guest because Craig Dolch actually knows the Old Gap Box. But this is our first pod of 2025. I've been out in Hawaii. Great trip, I know, at the Century and then the Sony
Never
Open
been
in
there.
Hawaii.
Never been there. Not going to not let you rub it in, but never been there.
All right, let's bring in Craig Dolch, really one of the outstanding sports writers that I have known in my lifetime, in my career. And yes, Craig knew Gabby Bell back in the day. Craig, great to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Doug. When I first came here to West Palm Beach in 1982, we could listen to the Gab Box every morning, and it was certainly part of our morning ride. And it's great to kind of complete the circle. And I think this is the first time we've done an interview together, Doug.
Yeah, we see each other every year down at the Cognizant Classic is what it's called now, the old Honda Classic. They're at PGA National. And I didn't realize, Craig, and I should have realized it, and I know our paths crossed, but you and I actually graduated the same year at the University of Florida. I don't want to divulge that information, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. I'd have to get some more fingers and toes, but it was a great time. I mean, University of Florida was a great journalism school, and it's amazing how many top journalists they produced. Hopefully, they can mention our name someday.
Yeah, the old redhead, Red Barber, the statue still out front. In fact, Craig, this was probably 2 months ago. And I took my wife there. She'd never been. She's a University of Alabama grad. She'd never been to the University of Florida. I actually had to drag her there. But when I showed her around, I think she kind of fell in love with the campus. Because, hey, listen, when you and I were there, it was awesome. It has grown like so many campuses nowadays. But I was very proud of the University of Florida in Gainesville.
Yeah, I try to get there at least one home game a year. You hopefully picked the right one. Went to Kentucky this year. That was one of the right ones.
Yes.
But certainly college set us up for not only the rest of our lives to be able to kind of learn how to get along with other people, but also our careers. And, I just think it's great that we're still friends and we can still talk about things that we love doing.
Absolutely. And number one is golf, as the 2025 season is now in full force, Craig. And on top of LIV and the PGA Tour, we have Tiger's new TGL, which is down in your neck of the woods there in Palm Beach College. I actually took a class there once, college algebra. But what do you think? I mean, so much is going on in golf, and I know so much has been negative the last few years, but I think right now I'm excited about all that is happening in professional golf.
Well, I think anybody will admit that competition at the end of the day is good for everybody. And I'm sure the PGA Tour wish they weren't put in this situation, but they have done things as a result of that have made it a little bit better for golf and for the players. Maybe not so much for the fans. That's something to be argued. But, the TGL is something they had really talked about before LIV, about the indoor league. And I was able to go to the first one. And I thought it was pretty intriguing to kind of reinvent a game that's been around since, thousands of years, it seems like, and to find something that, and more importantly, you get these players in a situation where they're out of their element. I mean, we see them play golf, and it's just like, an actor repeating his lines over and over again. And to watch these last 2 weeks and see how crazy, the giddy these guys get, that was, I think Sahiba was saying how he was so amped up. And after the first one, all six players, even though there was another shellacking, all the six players really had a blast doing it. They enjoyed it. It was something different for them, being on a team and having some entertainment value, which was certainly more than the sports the other night. But I think if the players are bought into this and they're enjoying doing it, that's all that really matters at the end of the day, because that's what these guys want to do. And they're going to want to keep doing this. It's not a 10-month gig. They're going to maybe play 4 or 5 times, but the winning team is going to split $9 million 4 ways. That's a lot of cash.
Well, I was excited to see Tiger. I was disappointed he wasn't in the first go-round, but he made his debut. And listen, it was exciting. Eye of the Tiger was blaring. It was kind of a Ric Flair wrestling entrance. It seemed to me like he was really enjoying the moment. His mom was there. His son was there. Serena Williams was there among this adoring crowd. I mean, Craig, I don't know. Golf needs to be infused with kind of a younger, more vibrant audience. And I think that's obviously what they're trying to attract. And I think slowly but surely they are.
Well, I've got my red Thursday red on, and I
There
don't
you
have
go.
any Sunday red because with my game, I don't make it to too many weekends. But but I think it's important that they do try and do some different things here, and I think they put a lot of time and thought into this. The teams seem a little odd at how they developed them, and from
Agreed.
what I understand, they spent an awful lot of time with each individual player. So they're trying to find out what is your schedule on the West Coast, when do you go to the Middle East. Even though Justin Rose had to make that long trip for the Tuesday night match, they're trying to get it where it's as seamless as possible for these guys. If they're going to skip the West Coast trip, then great. They can play that next Monday or Tuesday night over here in Palm Beach Gardens. And to see the crowd reacting, and look, they've got a lot of things they need to change. They understand that. I think the biggest change is being in the arena the first night. You could not hear the players interact with each
Right.
other. All you could hear was the blaring music and the DJ and the MCs. I mean, look, Doug, this isn't exactly aimed at our demographics.
Right.
We understand that. They're looking a little bit younger here, but I really believe they need to figure out a way. If everybody on ESPN can hear what these players are saying, and that's the whole point of this, we're trying to get to their personality, their interactions. If you couldn't have listened to what Kisner was saying after he almost bludgeoned that pin the other night. I mean, when is the last time you saw Tiger smile on a golf course during a round, particularly when they're getting drummed? And I think these guys have all bought into it as much as they can. And, we'll see how long this goes. But, you look back at the first couple Seinfeld episodes, and I'm not saying that TGL is going to win any Emmys, but they were pretty bad. And so the point being, it takes everything a little time to find their bearings. And, the bottom line is when you have guys like Rory and Tiger involved, and you look at the owners involved, when it's Steve Cohen and John Henry and, Steph Curry, Arthur Blank. So these guys aren't used to losing a whole lot in the business arena. So my money would not be on this thing being other than maybe a slow success, but it will be a success.
Craig, it's interesting. The PGA Tour always slow to come around in a lot of areas, but this YouTube sensation, which has been exploding over the last decade, it's something that they are finally starting to pay attention to. Bryson DeChambeau, his YouTube channel is just blowing up, whether he's playing with President Trump or whether he's having people come in and try to get a hole-in-one over his house. The Bryant brothers have been doing this for years, these trick shots. I mean, Craig, if you want to attract the younger crowd, you got to go that YouTube route, because right now the attention span isn't for 4.5, 5 hours of watching golf. It's for 90 seconds. It's for 3 minutes. It's for 5 minutes. I think the PGA Tour has finally figured out we need to go that route. They're starting to do some things like that. Craig, listen, you and I, we've watched the game evolve over decades, and right now it needs a younger audience. And I think we're slowly getting into that audience, aren't we?
Absolutely. I think that, the younger crowd, they certainly know how to reach their audience. Bryson DeChambeau, as you said, content is king in sports.
Right.
And if you can produce unique content, and it has to be fast, there's a reason these TGL matches are lasting 2 hours and not much longer. But think of it on the gender side too. Paige Spiranek, she was a former professional golfer. She's got millions of followers, and you don't think that she doesn't bring something to the game, bring people's eyeballs, so to speak, to the game, because it's just, you're all trying to, and that's the most frustrating thing that us longtime golf writers they're not working together the way they should. As long as LIV has been around, it's been a very, confrontational. They've taken players away. And look, they've done some things that have helped a lot of the PGA Tour players, and the players have admitted that. But like, just a perfect example is last week, LIV announced the rest of their schedule. They're going to have a tournament the week before the Masters. Well, unfortunately, the PGA Tour Champions event, which I'm involved with down at Boca Raton, that's the same week. And so they decide to have a tournament at Doral, an hour away from where another PGA Tour sanctioned event is going to be. That just seems kind of in your face. And their last 3 tournaments on the LIV schedule, they all coincide with the FedEx Cup playoff events. So clearly, we're not working along here. And what was it, a year and a half ago? They had an agreement in principle. I don't know how much longer it's going to take, but I think every fan would love to see the kind of civil war end and get back to seeing every player playing in all the major championships and all these big events.
Well, I think we're going to have that in 2026. I mean, everything that I see and everybody I talk to, negotiations are ongoing. Tiger's right in the middle of things. I do think we're going to, I mean, do you agree with me in 2026? And I don't know everybody's going to be happy or not, but I do think we'll have DeChambeau and Rahm and Koepka playing select PGA Tour events and vice versa. Is it fair or equitable? I don't know, but that's what we want to see. And I think that is going to inevitably happen in about a year. Don't you agree?
Well, I think one of the reasons, one of the factors that might facilitate this quicker is a lot of the top players said Greg Norman needs to be out of LIV. And I think LIV has kind of made that. I don't know how much Greg is still calling the shots. Titles are one thing, actions are another, but they all wanted to see Greg step aside before they felt like they were going to be able to make this merger back into the world of golf that we knew. And certainly that's a big step to doing that.
Well, and I think that's happening. They hired a new man in charge of LIV, even though they say Greg is still going to be involved. Listen, all the negotiations, it's the art of a deal, as our president says, and I think we're right in the midst of that. Listen, you can be negative, and I hear people on all sorts of talk shows be negative about TGL and everything. The negative Nellies are out there, but I think you have to look at it on a positive side. And with all that has transpired, I think we're headed in the positive direction. And listen, I'm a positive person, but that's what I see unfolding. You mentioned some of these billionaires who have put money into the new PGA Tour. They don't want to lose money. And I think the force behind it is pulling everything together.
Yeah, it's, I think some of the things that worry, like the tournament up here that used to be, we always are going to call it the Honda because it was
Yes.
the longest continuous running sponsor on the PGA Tour. And unfortunately, they just thought to felt like going a different direction. And so now with the new tournament here, change is not something that the golfers accept readily. And now it's become more of a, kind of a for-profit type deal where money is going to be the major factor in just about every decision they make. And, they're trying to get, everything's monetized now, and for better, for worse, the PGA Tour players are making a lot more money. You just hope it doesn't change the fabric of all these, and you travel as much as anybody, and you see all these tournaments in these communities, and you know how much they mean to the communities, particularly at a time where so many social services have been lost that, these $5-6 million that the tour has been giving away. Now they're still going to give away money. It's not going to be as much, but it's changing times, and it's only going to continue to change. That it's going to be a very steep change as they kind of settle into the new version of golf.
And Craig, I don't want to lose too the heartwarming stories. I was in Bermuda when Rafa Campos literally came out of nowhere to win that tournament and completely changed not only his career but his life around with his family, and baby had been born 4 days earlier. I hope we don't lose stories like that as we really develop a two-class system in professional golf. That might be the one negative. You're going to have the superstars and you're going to have the rest. And I hope we don't lose those guys who have been great stories over time on the PGA Tour. These guys who come from nowhere, live a dream, and win. I hope we don't lose those great stories because you know better than anybody. You've written hundreds of those over the years.
Well, I've written 700 stories on Tiger,
700.
And that's the problem. Is what Tiger and Phil and Ernie and when those guys were at the top, they overshadowed all those great stories. The young guys that were coming up and having that career changing moment. I mean, we only got to look at this week's tournament to talk about a guy who had a life changing moment was Nick Dunlap. Who won as an amateur last year, and he ended up winning Rookie of the Year, won again. So I mean, clearly showed that wasn't a fluke. And I'll tell you, the guy I'm looking at is, I think he's qualifies for Rookie of the Year is Luke Clanton, the kid from FSU. And, I'm not talking about, I think he had 3 top 10s last year, probably would have qualified, made over $2 million. But to me, the most impressive thing he did last year was in the NCAA championship. He lost the final match to Auburn, which meant that the Seminoles finished second. Now, in a team competition, this was a singles match, though. You can just imagine how Luke felt after that. So what does he do the next week? He goes to the Bears Club, and he's one of 3 guys to qualify for the U.S. Open that week. And I just said, man, if that guy can bounce back from that kind of disappointment and play that well, that's going to serve him quite well in a business, in a sport where that's all you ever do. And when they have a bounce back statistic, that tells you how struggling the sport can be.
Well, we love the sport, and I got to ask you about Blades Brown, the 17-year-old who is making his PGA Tour debut, even though he played in the Myrtle Beach Classic last year and finished 26th, by the way. He was 16 last year when he played on the PGA Tour. Now making his PGA Tour debut, does not want to go to college, and his dad fought cancer, and so they're totally behind their son, saying, hey, listen, don't hold back. Time is of the essence. Fame is fleeting. Do it if you want to do it, and they're fully supportive of their son. What do you think? 17 years old, Craig, making his PGA Tour debut.
Well, you look at what he's accomplished. He has not looked like he's a 17-year-old.
Right.
I saw him play at the Western Amateur last year. We live streamed with Lowell Thaler, and it was not his best week, and that's unfortunately the nature of golf. You're not going to play well every week, and there's an awful lot of 17-year-old phenoms out there that we thought were going to be stars. That
yes.
For whatever reason, they might grow 4 inches. They might have, personal family, issues that get in the way. But, certainly he's set up for success. And that's the thing that, if we take a step back and look at, Ludwig Oberg, watching him play that first night, I don't know if I'd want to be his agent or his caddy. That kid is going to kid. He's 23, 24. He's going to be making hundreds of millions of dollars. He is a stud, and he plays fast. So that's why we love him even more.
Well, and it's so funny. That's why golf's such a great story. Here's a kid from Sweden looking for any opportunity to come to the United States, and he goes to Lubbock, Texas, and plays at Texas Tech. And believe me, if you look at Sweden compared to Lubbock, Texas, Craig, that's like opposite ends of the spectrum.
I remember Carl Peterson, another Swede. He went to school, I believe, at NC State. So
yes, he did.
I think there were a few, I'm sorry, what did you say? Kind of comments because the dialect's a little different. But we just got a great. You'd mentioned yesterday we were going to talk about the 3 guys who, Patrick Cantlay, Justin Thomas, and what's the other one?
Sam Burns and Jordan Spieth. They all are in winless droughts.
Yeah, they have not won since 2022, and you kind of wonder what's going to happen. My response would be Xander Schauffele. He hadn't won since 2022 until last year, and then he won a couple of big tournaments. So I don't think these guys are too worried. I know they're working hard, to like Justin, to get back to winning. These guys are used to winning, and there's sometimes nothing worse to have great success early in your career because not only your expectations but everybody else's expectations get up, and you have a hard time reaching that. But I just say, Xander showed how quickly, and most of these players, that's what they've done their whole careers. You have that 2 or 3 really hot weeks that makes your year. Sometimes it makes your career. And I'm not worried about these guys bouncing back. I think it's just going to be a question of when and how much. A lot of them don't play that much anymore, too. With all the money out there, they're adopting more of this Tiger and Jack schedule where they're not going to play more than 18, 19 tournaments a year because they don't have to.
It's good stuff. How often do you see the Golden Bear these days?
I haven't seen him a whole lot. He may come down. I don't know if Gary's going to play in the Champions Tour event. They had given him a couple of exemptions over the years, and every time Jack was down there following him, Jack really, it's legendary how much he supported his family and his sons. Not ever playing more than 2 weeks in a row, and I miss seeing Jack. We'll see him a lot up at the PGA National at Honda. Please, what's the name of the tournament again?
The Cognizant Classic.
Cognizant. I should be more cognizant of that, but I'm so ingrained with Honda that it's hard to make that switch. It'd be like, a commander going, from a Redskin to a commander. It's a Charger to, Los Angeles to San Diego. Everything seems to change in our world, but anyway.
It does. Hey, Craig, we do appreciate it. I need to get you back on more often, and I really do look forward whenever I see you down at PGA National. It's so much fun. We always catch up in a short period of time. We kind of catch up, and I respect what you've done in your career and your family and the whole bit. So keep up the good work, my friend, and look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, let me just say one last thing. I wanted to thank the PGA Tour because before Honda stepped away, with our good friend Tim Rosafort
Yes.
had passed away, and we had Ken Kennerly had named the media center after. It's called the Tim Rosafort Media Center, and we also established an award called the Rosafort Distinguished Journalism Award. And the tour was nice enough to let us continue that tradition. And we'll be announcing another winner for the Journalism Award in a couple weeks. And I'm sure everyone's going to listen and say, wow, he deserves it. So
wow.
Anyway, thanks for the tour for doing that. And, man, we all miss Timmy, and we all miss Jeff Babineau.
Yes.
We all miss Steve DeMaglio and Dan Baker. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's been a lot lately. It's been a real tough time in our business for seeing some famous Larry Guest. I'm sure you know Larry. Larry used to hang out with
you hang out
Arnold
with my dad.
Palmer back and he passed away this weekend at the age of 82. So, it's people that kind of are the links to the past of golf. And that's the best thing about Jack. Every time Jack goes into a press conference, I learn something about him or the game that I never knew. And I never try and miss a Jack. I tell all these young players, or the ones that I know, don't just follow Jack on the golf course. Follow him everything he does. Follow him in the media center. Follow him, how he lives his life off the course. And I think you'll be a pretty successful person.
Yeah, and speaking of Larry Guest, he wrote that unauthorized biography of Arnold Palmer. Still one of the great books I've ever read. And it was just the stories in that book were just incredible. Larry was a great
Bull
writer.
and the Bear, right?
Yep.
Bull and the Bear.
Yep.
I believe, and I'm pretty darn sure that book is why they kind of stopped their friendship, or it certainly changed their friendship quite a bit.
Great book, though.
Yeah, it was, but there were things in there Arnold didn't want in there.
I know.
And, it's unfortunate that sometimes people want to sell some books and do that. But anyway, Doug, I appreciate it. It's been great talking with you today.
See you in a few weeks.
All right. Thanks, Doug.
All right, bud.